Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Six and this is my gameplay on Enhanced Shaman in Uldaman Legacy of Tyr. Funny story, this is actually the second time I am recording this. I'm actually gonna alt tab right now, make sure my voice is recording. But something very embarrassing. Just did a 30-minute talk through of this whole dungeon, talking about how I feel about Enhance, the dungeon itself, the bosses, and I was muted. So hopefully the second time around I fixed some things and I'm still very focused on the discussion. So my goal here on this video, what we're going to be doing for every spec moving forward, is I'm going to have a playthrough of each dungeon on the specs that have been updated in the alpha so far. So I feel closer to Enhanced Shaman with the specs that have been updated. I'm normally a Warrior and Windwalker player, but I have played Enhanced Shaman in the past. And I'm going to talk about how the class feels. I do have some damage numbers from combat logging that I'll throw up. I forgot to turn on combat logging until the middle of this dungeon, so there's only so much data. But it seems like Enhance is going to be in an okay spot. I'm currently using a Lava Lash build with Hot Hands and Primordial Wave. The funny thing is, in the alpha right now, the main goal is to make sure the mobs work. There's no bugs on the mobs. Their abilities, you know, don't bug you out, knock you through a wall, whatever, what have you. It's not about how much damage they're doing. That balance comes later. They just want to make sure it's actually working. So you will notice that when it comes to talking about damage, I'm only going to glaze over it because that's not important right now. It's just not, just to make sure, we just have to make sure it works. But that being said, I do have damage numbers very likely to change. One of my main concerns with the Shaman tree and what I've heard other people say is that the placement of some talents might be a little weird. But in my personal opinion, the lava build, which is very AoE heavy, is very fun to play with trash. I have a lot of fun. Usually there's always a button to press. Numbers are flying everywhere. You know, it's a light show. It's very, very enjoyable. But we have the first boss here, which is the Lost Vikings. They're called the Lost Dwarves. But, you know, they're from, you know, one of Blizzard's games, the Lost Vikings. I highly recommend playing that if you've never seen it before, if you're into retro gaming. It's an okay game. I've had fun with it. I actually rented it once from a video game store way back in the day. That kind of shows my age. To get in a boat. So I'm trying to... You're still able to hit them if you, like, jump into them. So I'm trying to find, like, well, they're flying around. There's a ton of stuff on the ground. Where can I stand to actually hit them? And then they jump off. Not a very hard fight. I should mention that if for those that are looking at the symbol in the top right corner, this actually is the heroic version of the dungeon. Excuse me, I had to get some water. It's 105 degrees in the south right now. Very, very, very dehydrated. Very, very hot in my apartment right now. But yes, this is the heroic version of the dungeon. You can see, look at that fire nova. Look, it feels so good to play. I really am contemplating, it's a very big knee-jerk reaction, but I am contemplating playing Enhanced right now. It just feels very, very good in AoE situations. I think there could be a combined build, or you just switch to it for single target in a raid environment, and you just like, hey guys, I'm here for the AoE damage. Somebody else has to pick up the slack on the single target, which I think is completely fine. But then you get into some situations when you're pushing keys, like, well, I could do both. I'm really curious where that balance is going to be at. But there's so much time to move talent trees around. Their goals are to get all of them done, and then they take feedback, and then they refine it. Now, we've heard that before. You know, I am not someone to shade away from criticizing Blizzard in the past, because I have for a very long time, since Legion. But I am personally a little bit hopeful the more I see, and this is only week 2. So, but we have a very long road ahead. So we have the next boss, Bromach. Bromach, Maybe it's Bromach. Maybe he likes to be referred to as Mach. I use my lust here. We go in. I will say, I hope there's a way to edit the size of the cast bars on the enemy nameplates. There may be, but I couldn't. The new settings kind of, even with the search terms, I kind of can't find some things still. Specifically this. My nameplates are usually huge. I use tidy plates with LVUI just because it's a preference of mine. And I always have the cast bars ginormous because that's just what I need. You know, as I get older, it's not like my eyesight. I still have 20/20, but it's just like, oh yeah, I see that. I got to move. You know, there's a lot of spells going on, but it's very, very tiny in comparison to what I'm used to. So I run out, we go back in. Pretty simple boss. Curious to see what they add for the mythic on him. Also, I just kind of noticed there. So it's I'm kind of dumbfounded. He looks a lot different than his model looks like, unless I'm like freaking out. I'm gonna have to run this again. I'm gonna have to look at the footage again too. He looked a little bit different than like the actual model there. Maybe I'm crazy. We're running this with 3 evokers. 2 DPS evokers, 1 healer, a paladin tank. Their talent trees are not changed yet, so they're relying on Shadowlands, the old talents essentially right now. I ran this before with a blood death knight. I don't know. I haven't really noticed a difference in their tanking ability, but they do not have the new trees. So I would love to hear what my healer thinks on that. We have a discussion because we actually do wipe in this dungeon later. We on Emberon, he is the boss everyone is having trouble with right now, and that may be a numbers issue, but I actually kind of like it. You know, I'm gonna actually leave the wipes in this and talk about it. I may edit it a little bit forward, but I think it's a good thing that we were wiping. Just personal opinion. You know, a little bit of strife never hurt anybody. Now the main question is this the difficulty you want on heroic, or do you want that to be the mythic difficulty and then it scales up from there? That's a perfect conversation to be had when it comes to that. But you know, it kind of is what it is. I like it. This is the first boss that I have damage numbers on, so I will throw those on the screen right now. His name is Sentinel Talondras. You can see that I'm at 89,000. If the logging is not buggy or anything like that, our evoker is trucking right there, and then a little bit behind, and that just depends. Probably the knockbacks are causing issues, probably the AoEs are causing issues, the movement's causing issues, but yeah, I'm, you know, for a single target not being a single target build, I think that's pretty okay. I also kind of like misuse my CDs on some of these bosses, and I keep up. So you know, if I actually have perfect play and I'm not bad at the game, the numbers will probably be higher. But you can see this boss has knockback. There's some AoEs on the ground. They drop. There's orbs there. They explode. So we ran into both of those orbs. Maybe that's something we have to do. I haven't read in the dungeon journal. Something I personally like to do with these dungeons is the first time through, even on M0s, I like to not read the journal. I just like to see if I can get by on my own personal ability. Could I react to things? You know, self-discovery. That's one of the most fun things that you can do in video games. And I always make sure the group I'm with understands that's what I'm doing. So I usually run with friends and they're like, yeah, let's do that. You know, that's fun. Because, you know, that's why we play games. A lot of us try and like get really good at the games we play, but you know, the first time through, it's a special experience. You know, you never forget your first time, right? So we're just doing more AoE here. Again, enhanced Shaman AoE feels very, very good. It could get hectic at times, because if you have all things pop up, like see you have mass procs, and I actually have footage of me on a training dummy where that happened, where everything procced at once. I was like, buh. I didn't know where to go at that point, but more play, you'll get used to it. I'm not even sure my own priority is correct. So that orb right there, I'm not sure. I'm wondering if that is a mob ability, but you can see I kind of like back away from it because I was worried it may be an evoker ability. It might be one of their bronze abilities, but I was just like, oh, I'm scared of that. Because I personally didn't know. But moving forward, sorry, I'm still getting water. I'm so thirsty. It's really bad, y'all. I've had 3 power outages, and my internet went down for 8 hours last night. It's like I'm living in hell. You know, first world hell, but you know, it's still pretty messed up. You know, I've never been in a summer where it was this bad. You can see a lot of AoEs on the ground, or dangerous zones on the ground. You know, you gotta step out of those. We're just trucking along until the next boss, just chilling. Really isn't too hard. These trash pools haven't been too bad. I think personally the trash pools in Neltharis are more fun. Especially there's that one mini boss that starts popping off mechanics at you. Pretty cool mini boss. I like that a lot. But you know, I mean, it's not a complaining thing. It's more of a subjective opinion. If you're interested in seeing more content like this, by the way, you may comment below what specs you want to see. Make sure it's an updated spec, because I probably won't touch at this point in the alpha any of the specs that haven't been worked on. Because if I want to pump out a video with my feedback on every spec that's been updated, that's a lot of videos, that's a lot of time, a lot of me doing this. So I want to make sure I only do it on the things that have been updated to use the best of my time. So here's the boss that wiped us, I believe, 2 times. Emberon. And you can see I'm going in. I feel like I got this. Don't know what that ability does. It's just an AoE. I'm trying to dodge the orb. I get hit. And I'm tunneling because I thought the visual cue for that ability was different. I actually thought I had time because I was going off the visual and not the cast bar, and I recognized that when I was running. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to get out. So you'll notice on the next time that I do this fight that I actually move early like I'm supposed to, and I go towards the ads because there's a little bit of downtime there. You can see it's a hectic phase. I die again. It's this first pull, a lot of people are learning it. We're learning that we need to stay together, and that's how we're going to get through that phase. It's just a lot of outgoing damage, but I don't think it's a bad thing. The only thing I would argue is maybe this isn't meant for heroic difficulty, maybe mythic, because, you know, in a alpha environment, all of us, like, probably no one knows who I am, but a lot of us are content creators or longtime players, and we are more willing to talk to each other because it's a more, you know, it's a restricted environment. There's only so many people in here. But, you know, on heroic, are people going to freak out? It's like, I can't believe you died, healer. Madge. It just kind of depends. I don't really run into that often in MMOs anymore, but maybe I've been really fortunate with that. But I do like that this is difficult. I do like that this is hard. Just because you have to move together. You have to be conscious of what you're doing. You can't just get through this by pressing buttons. I feel like that's normal difficulty. Get through it pressing buttons. Heroic steps it up, and mythic, like, your balls are getting busted. And then the higher you go in M+, it's like, wow, you know, whatever is crushing your balls is heavier and heavier or more jagged. Like, that's the better version of how I like my difficulties. But you know, that's not everyone's opinion. You know, some other people might think that's different. Like, they just leave that for mythic, and that's where it belongs in that difficulty. So we're running back. I'm going to skip ahead. We have a shortcut in this dungeon. A lot of people have been getting feedback that, hey, we hate that this dungeon does not have another res point. Well, there's a reason for this. You will notice here that there is a crumbling cave rock. If you have 25 skill in mining, you can instantly remove it, from my understanding. That's what I'm assuming. But if you don't, you're able to hit this. So I say to my group, hey, let's kill this rock. It'll be a shortcut if we die again, you know? So we all kill it. We all go together, and then we get ready for our next pool. And we're going at Emberon again. I kind of mentioned, hey, when do you guys want lust? Maybe I'll do it after first ad phase. So we see how the first ad phase goes. If we just instantly wipe, then, you know, that kind of saves me from pressing it, essentially. Because it's just more likely if we make it through the first phase, hey, maybe we got the second phase. This is where I notice that, and our group is getting split here, that, and I didn't discuss this beforehand. I didn't say, hey, we should stick together to go through this phase. So we're going to wipe again, essentially. So this is a very short pull, but it causes us to talk. And I also noticed that the laser always goes clockwise, and it almost always spawns in the same spot. Now, that doesn't mean I go to the correct spot on the next pull. But yeah, at least these things have been noticed, right? So I talked to my group. I'm like, hey, I think we should travel together. We should use mitigation as we fight. We should use movement utility, etc., etc. We got this, you know. Seems to be that he has a conal ability that also goes out. I have a dot on me. I did it. I was kind of like, what am I getting hit by? I'm not stepping anything about it. And it was like, oh, it's a debuff. I feel very naked without my UI in some cases. So I'm trying to see where everybody's going. I try to stay together. We do get split here, sadly. But the healer is with us, so that's fine. It's just a matter of keeping up. I use my mitigation to try and soften the blow here. I'm looking to see if I can heal anybody with Maelstrom stacks if that's needed. I'm trying to watch my bars. I'm trying to watch myself just to make it easier on our healer. We're going around. I think the best way to do this, if the laser spawn in the same spot every time, and it looks like they always go clockwise, if you have the two ads right here, you go for these two ads and you step where behind where the laser spawns. And then you kill those two, and then you go around, and I think that is the fastest way you'll do it, besides just having your group split and go for specific ads. I don't know if that's the proper way to do this fight. I feel like it might take too long for one person to kill, depending on like how geared you are, so that may not be worth it. But you know, we saw in the past with BFA and some things, you know, like everybody has to split up, fight this ad, and that's, you know, we have to kill them together. That's a Taltazar fight mechanic. So maybe that's the way to do this. I don't know. I was worried here, so I'm talking to my tank like, hey, did I clip you with that AoE? And on the footage, I believe I did not, from looking at it again. So I was worried. It's like, hey, that's my bad if that was my fault. And we have a conversation about like, hey, I'm you know, maybe it was probably me because I'm playing Paladin and the talents aren't updated. And I'm just like, hey, I respect that. You know, I really want to play Warrior. I get how that feels. But let's go to our final pull here. I believe this is the one that we killed the boss on. But we got it this time. We've talked about it. I actually mentioned in chat, hey, does it always go clockwise? You know, they noticed that too. So we're talking to each other. We're figuring it out. This is what the game is about. It's a good time. Going into the AoE phase again. And we're more together this time. See how that is? We're all together. The laser's kind of coming in hot though. Kind of worried. But we are all together. I'm looking to spot heal if possible. Still taking a ton of damage. I see Dracusto. I tossed Dracusto a heal. It cost me Maelstrom to heal myself, but I'm still full, so that's good. And then we finish the phase. Now, the crazy thing is, it's going to happen again. And I kind of fall asleep for a second, and it was like, oh yeah, he has a conal, I shouldn't stand there, so I get out of the way at the last second. Watch out for the orbs, trying to do damage, trying to use my procs correctly. And then I'm seeing where my group is going as we run out. Those two go to the proper, they go to the proper area, in my opinion. I think that's where we need to go every time. That is the chosen area, that's the better spot. But we got split up because we didn't do it that way. So that's my fault. 3 went one way, 2 went the other way. It is what it is. But the 2, that is where we should have went. I think that's the proper way to do the fight because the laser seems to go in the same spot every time. So I'm trying to keep everyone alive. I'm in wolf form for damage reduction. I'm trying to heal myself, keep myself up. But we still have to worry about the damage. So I'm like, oh, I got to damage the thing. I'm really low. I can't heal and also run. I'm going to die. It's like I accept my fate. You know, like there's a tick there. I'm going to die off that tick. But as I eat the dirt on the ground, my group defeats Emberon. That is the last time we have to do that phase. They are 4 people. I'm like, yeah, you guys got this. You know, you can see in chat that I cheer for them. I'm going to put up the damage numbers right now. You can see how much my damage dipped from the death and probably from improper running around as a melee. You know, there's probably a better way for me to position myself in this fight, but most people's damage suffered here. It's a very high movement fight. You have to really focus on just not dying a lot of the time. But I like that it makes you have to be a group. You have to be together. You have to move together. It's just, is this what we want the difficulty at? But that's not the question we should be asking ourselves at this point in the alpha. The main thing we worry about right now, does it work? Do we crash? Is a model even there? Does it fly off the screen? Things like that. But we do talk in chat, like imagine that on Mythic, you know, we talk about affixes and things like that. Tyrannical. I believe I mentioned this earlier, but since, as I mentioned before, I've had to make this 2 times now, all my thoughts are swirling in my head. It was like I want to make sure I say everything that I wanted to say the first time before I realized, hey, I was muted. The other specs that I will be doing are probably going to be shorter videos. I'll probably focus on a few trash pulls and then straight into the bosses and how it felt doing the bosses with their kits. And then thinking about like, well, hey, you know, I could have taken better utility here for the group. Because definitely in my class tree, as I mentioned before, my Shaman class tree, I did not pick the best talents. I'm actually curious as we get more melee, because I don't have Wind Fury Totem. For other people, but the reason I didn't take that is because I had a feeling everyone wants to play Evoker, even though there are Shaman talents up, there are Rogue talents up, and there are DK talents up. But I was like, yeah, probably everybody wants to play Evoker. It just kind of is what it is, you know. It's gonna be flavor of the month for the first raid tier 2, but not all the raid teams are gonna be able, unless they're just overpowered. You know, there's not gonna be room for every Evoker that wants to be in a team. Some people are gonna have to be like, I'll go back to my normal main and maybe next tier on an you know, we could do alt runs or something like that. But the next videos will be a little bit shorter, just focused on like, hey, here's the build I'm using, here are the damage numbers on every boss, this is how I'm feeling about it, feels okay. I think that's a good video to do. Let me know what you would like, if there's anything else you would kind of like take a look at. I'm always accepting feedback. I'm new at this, let's be real. I just have a great love for video games, and hopefully you enjoy this type of video. But yeah, please let me know below if you have made it this far, just what you would like moving forward, because ultimately my goal is to go through every spec that's been updated. And you know, that may get boring after a while, but you know, there may be someone who's like, well, I play DK, why don't you do DK yet? And I was like, my bad, man, I couldn't get there. You know, there's only so much time we have to test these dungeons as well. That's a big thing. If you think about how many videos I got to pump out, you know, you got 20 minutes per dungeon and then 20 minutes of recording. It may just be good for me to collect all the footage and then like slowly push it out, but I'm trying. It hasn't helped with all the power outages and stuff in real life. But we notice here that the Infinite Dragonflight is coming out. I'm curious to see what the lore is here. Also, Tyr. Tyr has been part of the lore for a while. So how does this version of Uldaman operate? You know what I mean? Like, why is it open now? What is going on here? But they're talking about the discs. So, like, are they talking about the discs of Norganon? I thought we had those already. Is this another disc? Like, discs of Tyr or something? So I'm curious to see what zone we learn about this in, or from who. Mentions Alexstrasza. Maybe Alexstrasza hears about what the Chrono Lords are doing. That might be a case. But we're actually about to hit the end of the dungeon here. We have a couple trash pulls and then the final boss. I will say this. I actually think Neltharis is a better dungeon out of the two, but that doesn't mean I dislike this dungeon. It's more just the feel and the bosses as well. I really... it's such a simple ability, but I really like the Forge Master guy in Neltharis, the way he throws the axe, and it's like a cross ability on the floor. I just like those things. You know, that's fun for me. It's also the appearance. Neltharis had some really jaw-dropping parts of the dungeon. Not to say that Uldaman doesn't as well. You're probably struggling to see as I play from a top-down view when I DPS. Helps me see things. But like this backdrop, every dungeon so far has had a great backdrop after you finish the dungeon. Now Tharis has a really good one, and Uldaman has a very good one. And I'm going to show both of those on the screen. There's also the room we fight Emberon in. Emberon's room looks like it's a raid boss room, not a dungeon boss room. It's very grand. So I pop Lust. You'll notice as we fight this boss, the floor just becomes full. So from what I understand, what's going to happen is if we have like a lot of range, then raids need to stay closer to the edge to drop their sand on the edge if they get targeted. And melee, we just have to wait until the tank moves the boss. So the tank is going to have to move around the room most likely. So you may pick one. You notice that this room is kind of like in a shape of a U. You may pull to one side and then slowly step around the arena. I do not know if the boss for this time flow, they go back to the center to use the time flow, or they just use it where they're at. But that's kind of what I'm seeing would be the best way to do this, is you use all of the arena as best as you can. You just slowly step around the room in a U formation if possible. Just do your, you can see I'm like, I don't know where to stand, and sometimes the dust is bigger than, you know, the visual cue. So I'm like, well, I don't I'm just trying to find, I'm panicking. In my mind during that moment I was actually panicking. I get a 10.0 placeholder on him, but that's kind of like what I see for that boss. He's an interesting boss. I'm curious to see if Mythic adds anything crazy to it. And here's the backdrop with the Milky Mommies. Really cool. I just really like the dungeon design so far from a visual perspective in these dungeons. Also, we see this. There's another staff in the middle. What is this room? What is its purpose? Do we ever see it again? Is this just a one-off thing? Are there going to be more versions in the future as we go through, like, more Uldaman stuff? I have no idea. You can see I disabled my combat logging, and we're just standing around. We say GG to each other. It was a good run, you know. Nobody got mad. Everybody was really supportive during the Emberon thing, so I had a good time. But yeah, let me go back to the Emberon room, and I'll show you the Emberon room as well as one more room that I think that looks really, really nice, talking about the dungeon design specifically. So this is specifically one of the rooms. Look at that. And you can see me taking screenshots because I don't know what the thumbnail for this video is going to be yet. But isn't that beautiful? I love it. It just looks so nice. And then we proceed a little bit further, and we are in Emberon's room. I believe I turned the camera back around. You can see that the Lost Vikings are trying to break into the vaults, so that's kind of funny. You can't talk to them, though. They don't say anything. I wonder in the future if you can right-click on them. as you come back through. But yeah, that's a very grand room. It looks really, really cool. But yeah, that was Uldaman, Legacy of Tyr. Let me know if this is what you want to see for the future spec videos. Would you prefer me just doing it live, talking out loud? Would you rather me sit down and have kind of like this fireside chat with you, talking about how I feel about it, just seeing how the bosses work? Like I said, the future ones will be shorter. I won't just be talking the whole time through the dungeon, but this is the first impressions video specifically. I just chose Shaman because I'm more comfortable with it as we go through these dungeons. So every time we first do the dungeon, it'll be longer. Other specs in the future, I'll be like, yeah, you know, it feels good on this boss, etc., etc. I may even combine into a one spec video covering both Neltharis and Uldaman, but that may be too much footage to do all at once. Oh no, just let me know what you would prefer. If you are interested in watching me do this live, I do stream at twitch.tv/BigHeroSixy. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the content on YouTube, and also like the video because that helps me out. And I hope you all have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please leave me feedback because I want to deliver. I have a huge opportunity being in the alpha, and I don't want to shirk it. I want to try and help the community and serve the community as best as I can, and I want to deliver content that people enjoy watching. So hope you all have a good day. I hope you all stay safe, stay cold if you're somewhere where I am where it's really hot, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.